And now it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle ideas designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox.
Well, hello and welcome to Boomer Life here on AM 650. On the program today, it's all about hearing. We're going to talk about the latest innovations in hearing. We're going to talk about the inner workings of the ear from an expert perspective. And we'll talk about, well, solutions and hope for those suffering from hearing loss. And it's always a pleasure to welcome this guy to the program. Back with us on Boomer Life from Mainland Hearing and Next Gen Hearing is audiologist Dr. Ted Venema. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Ted.
Good
It's good to see you. I wanted to go through the designations. You are both an audiologist and a hearing instrument practitioner.
There you go.
So
Lots
what's the
of
difference?
syllables.
What's the difference between the two?
An audiologist has a master's degree and has a university training. You can think of that person like an optometrist.
Okay.
An HIP, hearing instrument practitioner, is like an optician. It's like he's college trained.
Okay.
Both work with testing hearing. Both fit hearing aids. One's university trained, one's college trained.
I see. Okay.
Essentially, that's the gist of it.
All right, and if we go to get a hearing test anywhere in British Columbia, is that test going to be conducted by an audiologist
Either one.
or a hearing instrument?
Either one.
Oh, I see. So
flip a coin.
Both of those two disciplines can do the same job.
Exactly. When it comes to adults, the audiologist has an edge in that he or she can also test infants and babies. They work with pediatric population.
Okay.
Whereas the hearing instrument practitioner doesn't.
Okay. We were going to talk about hearing loss on the program today. And one of the, I guess, the most common type of hearing loss, certainly, and I'm going back over previous conversations that you and I have had, one of the most common forms of hearing loss is, well, it's aging, Dr.
Yes,
Ted.
it is.
It's the inevitable. It's the one part of the human condition that we really can't redo, isn't it?
You can't get around that one.
That's right. So is hearing loss as part of the aging process the same as vision loss for the same gang?
No.
Okay.
And that's kind of why you're asking a great question. Most vision loss is because your eyeball is too long or too short. And so the light coming through the pupil of your eye isn't hitting the back of your eye, the retina, properly.
Okay.
In one sentence, the retina changes light into electricity, and electricity is the language your brain understands.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to vision, glasses simply refocus the light properly on an intact retina, and you're good to go.
Okay.
Hearing aids, it's a different story because the inner ear with age, 95% of hearing loss is due to the inner ear problems.
Okay.
And that's when hair cells, tiny little cells, die off in this inner ear. And that inner ear is called the cochlea. That cochlea is Greek for snail shell. It's a tiny little thing about big as your pinky fingernail. Now, when the damage happens there, it's permanent. So you can't fix that. Medicine, you can't do surgically cure or fix that. The only treatment is hearing aids.
Okay, so does the damage, though, to that cochleus, is that a normal aging thing similar to the deterioration in vision you just mentioned?
Most vision loss is just, again, refocusing. Rarely you do, like in some unfortunate cases, you get what they call macular degeneration.
Right.
When the retina itself of the eye is now starting to deteriorate.
Okay.
And now no matter how you focus light on the retina, you're still going to lose your vision.
Right.
Hearing loss is quite like that. I make the analogy. That's what hearing loss is.
Oh, I see.
It's damage to the retina, in quotes, of the ear.
Oh, I see.
And so that's what makes hearing aids such a different story or such a different kettle of fish from glasses.
Interesting.
And that's the main breach. And I think that when you know who you're not, you get a better idea of who you are. And audiology or the hearing field is not optometry.
Okay.
They're vastly different.
So if the retina is the key in vision, the cochleus is the key in hearing.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so now I saw a thing, and it was on the television news on one of the local channels just a week or so ago. It was a story. You see them on YouTube all the time. Yeah. These cute stories, and they really are wonderful stories.
I think I know where you're going here.
Of little children. Yeah. And this is a story of a little boy who's maybe 3 or 4, and he was born deaf.
Yeah.
So he had a cochlear transplant
Cochlear
or
implant.
implant.
Yeah.
So he was able to, and this recording was of his parents recording him hearing music for the first time.
I know it. It's
and I mean, and the expression on his face.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and so
that's the tear jerk moment, and that's the real magic for which everyone craves.
So,
I mean, that's fantastic.
So this little fellow was born deaf.
He was. Yeah.
So his cochleus was completely damaged.
Correct.
Irretrievably damaged.
Yeah, you can't fit hearing aids on. You can't wring blood from a stone.
Right. Okay.
And if a cochlea, all the hair cells inside a cochlea are totally dead, you've got nothing to work with.
Okay.
You've got nothing to aid with a hearing aid.
So what about then in the case of a boomer?
Yeah.
And this person has a hearing loss that ends up being profoundly deaf. The hearing loss is dramatic to the point where all of a sudden you can't hear anything. Is that person in their 50s or 60s or beyond, is that person a candidate for one of those implants?
They would be, but that's rare.
Okay.
Let me explain why. Usually presbycusis is aging of the of your hearing.
All right.
Presby is Greek for elder. Presbyterian, Church of the Elders.
Gotcha.
Presbyopia, your arms aren't long enough to read the page. Okay. Presbycusis, hearing loss in the elder.
All right.
And presbycusis is usually mild to moderate in degree. You've got some hearing loss, and that's usually the way it stays. It can deteriorate bit by bit as you get into your 90s, perhaps, but it doesn't usually leave you stone deaf.
Okay.
Okay, it's just hearing loss. There are some unfortunate individuals who get hearing loss in adulthood, and for some reason it just continues to march worse and worse and worse until the person's stone deaf.
Right.
That person would be a cochlear implant candidate.
Oh, okay.
But that's rare. You know that. Excuse me. Cochlear implants are only for people who cannot benefit from hearing aids.
I see.
But,
okay.
You know, the story.
And one would assume, though, because of that, they're probably quite expensive.
They would be. They're partly covered by the government.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think the surgical approach itself is covered.
Uh-huh.
Every jurisdiction's different. Canada's different from the States.
Sure.
But I think for children, of course, they'd be covered.
Okay.
But I thought they're pretty expensive. They'd be, you'd be talking like $25,000 or something. And then the surgery.
Right.
And if you had to pay that out of pocket, you'd be parting with about the cost of a house. But thankfully most people aren't in that situation. But if you are stone deaf and like a child gets a cochlear implant, what they do is they snake a coil of electrodes up into the channels of your cochlea. Your cochlea is like a spiral snail shell. And they snake a coil up into there. They usually only do one ear.
Okay.
Because you can't explant an implant. If you do that, you've left that cochlea completely damaged anyway. So they snake it up in there, and that coil serves as a rudimentary, crude kind of replacement of hair cells. So hair cells allow you to hear thousands of frequencies. With a cochlear implant, you'll hear less than 100. But still.
But if you can't hear anything.
Hey, it's like
it's magic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So talk to us a little bit, though, about what I'm trying to get to here on Boomer Life as we talk to our Boomer listeners, is that point in a person's life when we should start to anticipate this sort of, aging process.
Yeah.
Now, both Ted and I are wearing glasses.
Yep.
We don't need them all the time.
No.
But when we get in here and get to working and get to looking at our notes,
Yep.
out come the glasses.
Yep.
So, that we sort of cued in on these, in my case, probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I came to terms with needing glasses. It wasn't a pretty moment, but I came to terms with it. I got over it, and now I have really nice glasses.
You faced your demons.
I did, and carried on.
Yeah.
So when you start to notice that your eyesight ain't quite what it used to be, is it reasonable to assume that your hearing is probably beginning to, in some way, deteriorate too?
Yes, essentially. Vision loss tends to hit you around 40. The ability to read close up, that's hard to do. It's just a blur when it's close up. That's why I say your arms aren't long enough to read. That hits around 40-ish. Presbycusis or hearing loss tends to hit around 60-ish.
Okay.
So it's a little bit later, but you'll notice just difficulty discerning what people say. It's never that things aren't loud enough. The symptoms are more subtle. You'll just, did they say dishes or fishes? You're always going to be using the context to figure out what they must have said. Words that rhyme are going to be hard. And how come? Because presbycusis is treble hearing loss. It's the trouble with treble.
Oh.
You lose treble. When you lose treble and you keep bass, sounds are all wah, 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 but you lose the crisp clarity, the sound K, S, F, sh, t, k.
And so turning things up, making those fine sounds louder, would that help?
Yes, that's what
But then, of
hearing
course,
aids
you'll
do.
drive everybody else in your life nuts if you turn the TV up too.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that, and we have ways and means of getting around that. Hearing aids communicate by Bluetooth with TVs.
No, but I'm thinking just, again, at the sort of self-diagnosis point in your life, where you're coming to terms with the fact that, geez, I can't hear the TV anymore. Will somebody please turn that up?
And then
everybody else in the family's going, really?
Exactly.
You need it louder than that? Holy smoke. Time to see the audiologist, Dad.
And chances are that even the listener finds it a bit loud because the low pitches booming of the TV is loud, but he's doing that because he can't get what the words are.
Okay, so it's
sit, fit, hit, kit, bat, sat, fat, cat. They all have or I, but all the vowels are low-pitched sounds.
Right.
A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y are loud and low. They're bass.
Right.
But it's the sh, t, k, f, s, ch. Those are high-pitched consonant sounds.
Right.
And that's what the presbycusic listener can't hear anymore.
Okay.
And so hearing aids are deliberate treble amplifiers.
Right.
Usually they're amplifying the treble and they're leaving the bass alone.
Now, you were talking about when you do the cochlear implant.
Yes.
Usually you do one, they say.
Usually.
So when you do hearing aids, do you usually do in a pair,
Yes.
or do sometimes you only need one?
Rarely is the case. When someone ages, both ears get elderly at the same time. I mean,
Afraid
it's
so,
going to happen. Right? One half of your body, is 14, and the other half's 140.
Mm-hmm.
No, so, and you get stereo sound. You hear better in noise. 2 hearing aids are better than 1.
Okay.
They just are. It just sounds better. Excuse me. It's more balanced. And you can tell direction of sound better. It's just all the cues your brain uses to hear clearly in speech are better gotten with 2 hearing aids than 1.
Ah, okay.
They generally are.
Well, it's the same with eyeglasses.
Yeah, well,
generally speaking, the same prescription applies for both eyes, doesn't it?
Well, actually, in eyes, often one eye will be a little bit different than the other. You'll have a different prescription.
And do hearing aids get tweaked the same way if you have a dominant ear?
Yep, they would be. Absolutely. Most, they can. That's why hearing aids take a prescription.
Okay.
Because they are tuned to match the needs of the particular ear in question.
So again, we'll talk more about the process and the testing and all of that. But again, I'm sort of at the point now where we're just talking to people, Ted, who are struggling in some ego because it's no fun. I mean, it's a real shot in the ego to have to wear glasses, to have to put on a hearing aid, to have to be not perfect anymore. Damn it!
I know.
But you know what? When you get to be 50, 60, and beyond, you aren't perfect anymore.
And
you're aging well, but you're not perfect.
Yeah, and vision has less stigma than hearing.
True.
Vision loss. Elton John wears glasses as big as God, and no one says boo.
Right.
But hearing aids, it's kind of like because it has a stigma of senility, stupidity, elderliness, deaf and dumb. Those horrible words that people use, and it's like, no, it's hearing loss.
That's right.
All it is.
And it's not a big honking deal either, is it? I mean, it happens to every human being.
Yeah.
So what I'm after here in our opening segment is clues that you could help us with in terms of identifying. Okay, so as you were talking about, I'm having was that fat, cat, or hat? If I'm having trouble discerning consonants in normal conversation, then perhaps that is a huge clue to me that maybe I should get a hearing test.
Yeah, which is why not? It's free.
Yeah.
But I mean, you get a. We'll come back to that too later. But difficulty hearing in groups. Difficulty hearing in background noise. Difficulty discerning what's usually one-on-one is always easier than listening in groups. But when you really start to lag behind in a conversation because you're sitting at a table with 4 other people and you're just not picking up what's going on, you know.
Right.
And you're always trying to catch up. Time to get a hearing test.
Right.
Get it checked out, because you know what you'll find out, information is power.
Right.
Get the information, get the facts, Jack, and then you'll know what you can do about it.
And we'll talk about the test and all of that, but the upfront part, we can tell you right up front, and Ted's already mentioned it, any hearing test is free.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not exactly putting you hugely out of pocket to get you to sit down for 45 minutes with a pro who's going to tell you in no uncertain terms exactly what the status of your hearing is.
Yep.
It's just not that big a deal. Our guest from Mainland and Next Gen Hearing, audiologist Dr. Ted Venema, with us again on Boomer Life. Always a treat to have Ted with us.
It's always good to be here.
And we're back with lots more on Boomer Life right after this.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on AM 650.